Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Eddie Marcus. One more time. Yes, I'm constantly coming to you because I'm constantly getting information that would help aid you in the liberation of your life from bondage. 30 some years ago, I was given my first message by God. Now, I know many of you don't believe that a person can be given a message by God. Even though many of you go to church and you believe in the Bible, the King James Version of the Bible, and all of those people that you read about there, you are satisfied that they were led by the Spirit of God. Today, you don't think that that is possible, and I can understand. Back in the day when Moses said, and this is even contested, that God spoke to him, others didn't believe that God spoke to him, but it was a reality that God did speak to him that gave him the authority to go and do what God had said do. And it is the same criteria today. If God leads you to do something, you do it. Otherwise, it's as if God didn't tell you to do it. And so, those 30 some years ago, I was given the information that the church, more specifically the church, was on the path to hell. Now, specifically, the church was on the path to hell because it understood that the carnal environment is definitely on the way to hell because they don't have that spiritual guidance to come from God. And be that as it may, even with that spiritual guidance, the people of America were on the path to hell. And when I say the people of America, it was basically understood that those who are not of America, since America calls itself the most religious nation on the face of the earth, the most God-honoring nation and people on the face of the earth, the most loving people on the face of the earth, if they say this about themselves, then Lord have mercy on the rest of the human population. And the message is that this America that we say all these wonderful things about is actually on the path to hell. Now, that was something for me to swallow. First of all, I've been educated by the world that America is what it has proclaimed itself to be. And for me to go out and say that God has given me information to indicate that you're on the path to hell, well, that was just kind of hard for me to swallow. The message not itself was so hard for me to swallow, but the courage to go out and say these things to people. And even though ever since I began, and God didn't just give me that message, He sent me around the world, well, around the United States, to speak a particular message and to keep a record of how the church would respond. And that within itself would give me indication that it's true. Americans were on the path to hell, specifically the church. I went around, I did what it said, and as I came back and referred to the notations that had been made, the indication were verified that it is on the path to hell. And yet and still I had a problem saying it. The thing that brought it to legitimacy was in 2016, the presidential election, when they had two individuals represented. There were others, but the two major individuals in political parties, Republican and Democrat, were put before the American people as their choice for president. And everyone knew, based upon information that came to them from the other that supported the other, is that these were evil people. And yet and still, nobody complained about give us another choice. Nobody complained saying we don't want these evil people before us. They just chose theirs as the lesser of two evils and went to the poll and voted for evil. Republican evil or Democratic evil. And the church went right along with them and voted for evil. Now, you can find no clear evidence that America is ran by evil when this is the result of their actions. Well, it kind of gave reality a check, and people can see exactly what is being said. And so even today, when I talk to you about things that are so important, maybe it'll be a little bit easier for you to understand. As I mentioned in one of my most recent uh, posts, that Satan's voice had spoken with the expression peace or war by Senator Lindsey Graham. And that was something that I hope you got information and guidance from. And I'm here today to say to you again about you. I know that so many of you say that you believe in God. So many of you say it and you believe it in your heart that it is significant, that it means something. But you heard the expression about faith. People say they got faith, faith, faith. But you've heard it said that faith without works is dead. So what good is your faith if it doesn't represent anything? The same can be said about belief. What good is your belief when it doesn't represent anything? So belief alone is just like faith. It is absolutely dead without works. Now, what do I mean? This is what I'm saying to you, ladies and gentlemen. The earth was made not to be a corrupted earth. Yes, it was designed in such a way that if the people rejected peace and prosperity and happiness, then they could have corruption. But it was not made by God to be a corrupted earth. It was made so that people on earth could live here as though they were in heaven. They could live here as though they were in heaven. Now, all of the resources necessary for survival were given to the earth, whether it was above it, on it, or in it, seen or unseen. It was given to do the things that were necessary for survival, but not only those things, to be there to supply whatever mankind embraced, whatever they dreamed of, whatever they wanted to do. The earth provides it. Now, the necessary absent ingredient in that is that which has been given to human beings. The mindset, the gifts that God has implanted in each of us, that we may participate in the creative process that would manifest these things, and we could have exactly what we dreamed of having. God is a fantastic God, a loving God, in that each of us were given something, so that when the revelation is made, the manifestation is made, each of our names can be inscribed on the finished product as having ownership to it, because we were a part of that making. That way, no one is above anyone. No power is above God's power. No power is above your power except God, because you have the same contribution that everyone else have contributed. And it's not just what somebody say we want from you. It's what you have been given to do. And the evidence of that is that you have the greatest joy you could possibly have in giving that service to the process. Now, we have a system that's been generated that leads us down the path to hell, that says we don't have to listen to God's plan. God's plan is that we love God, we honor God, we have no other God before God. And the evidence of that is that we respect all that God has created as if it were God, and that includes us. So we do for others as we would have others to do for us. Is the only example, only justification, only indication that we have any respect for God, is that which we can share with and for one another. Now, in this system, what has tried to replace God is money. This money has been injected into the process to deny the existence of God. To deny the existence of God. This money was injected by people who do not believe in God, and they wanted to be God. And so they came up with a scheme. When you go fishing, you put a bait on the end of your hook, so you can, that bait thinks that it has something, that fish thinks that it has something to eat, has a benefit, a reward, a hunger to feel. And so they go there to bite that helpless bait. And in the process, they're snapped. They're snapped not by the fish, but by the one who baited the hook. So money is just like the bait on the hook. You go at it, You know what the requirements are to get it. Those of you who are needed to aid the fisherman, the devil, get paid more money. Those of you who don't, you get paid minimum wage. And those of you who are even needed less, you live on Skid Row. You don't have any type of income. You just suffer because the devil does not need you. And that is the bait. Now, who is that bait? That bait is those that do not believe in God. That bait, or should I say, that fisherman is the one that sets up and baits that hook and says they want to capture you and capture you. They are the ones who, let's look at them like this, the richest. Some of them are rich because they play a part in the process, and some are the most richest ones who come up with the scheme. They are usually called popes. They're usually called kings and queens and pharaohs and Caesars and prime ministers, and a lot of them are called congressmen, whether they're Senate or the House of Representatives. All of it is a part of the same scheme. It's all a part of the same scam, ladies and gentlemen. So I want to bring that to your attention so that you can recognize it for whatever it is. Some of you are fishermen. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You know that when you hold that pole, you know that you're deceiving that fish in that lake or that water that you're trying to get. And as soon as he bites that bait, you grab and snatch him out. Those who follow the plan of capitalism or socialism or communism or dictatorships, that's the same identical game that's being played on the people. And there's one game that is of God, and it is the only one that produces peace and prosperity and happiness and joy for every last one of you, and your dreams come true. In this process, it doesn't matter whether you mow lawns or whether you trim trees or whether you stock food in stores or stock the shelves wherever. It doesn't matter whether you dig ditches or whether you clean toilets. It doesn't matter whether you paint cars, make cars, fix tires, all of the things that go on into a house. It doesn't matter whether you walk your dog. It doesn't matter what you do. For those who are of God's understanding, you are somebody, and everything that you do is absolutely necessary for the finished product of that reservoir of services and goods that are essential for your happiness, for your dreams to come true. And every last one of you have access to whatever exists. And what you access, for instance, you get a car. That car is yours. You can call that car private property if you want to. You can call it that. Why? Because it is a product of man's making. It is a product of man's making. That house that you have, that human beings have come together and provided for you, you can call it your private property because you got responsibility for upkeep. You got, not necessarily that you got to make sure that it's upkept, but you have to let those resources, those professional resources out there, aware of whatever that house needs so that house can be maintained at a level of heavenliness. It is your responsibility. So you can claim that as your private property. But when we talk about private property in the sense of Americanism, we're basically talking about land. We're saying land. You remember when the West was won, how people came and got rid of the natives on this land and called us their land? When they came and took the lives of others and made them slaves, you know, that's a great grand step beyond your car. But it is treated as that. And so you have accepted the fact, you've accepted this lie that has been perpetrated on you, that you can own land. Even though you can't make it, you can't do anything about it, but it's called land. Let me ask you this. That's a trick too. Do you know that? Many of you say you can own that land. Have you ever heard of eminent domain? Eminent domain? That basically means if the powers that be needs that land that you have claimed as your private property, you got to give it up. I don't care what you were thinking. I don't care what the law says. Eminent domain says you got to give it up. Just like the Electoral College says, we don't care who you voted for, who we want in office is who we're going to put in office. See, that's a whole big old scam that's being worked on you, the American people. And that's why I have to come to you so often to remind you that that is not God, and that God is the only power that you should give allegiance to. God is the only power that you should believe in. You can find yourself believing in a man and finding out that that man doesn't care about you. And the next thing you find yourself doing is crying because your heart has been broken. You put your trust and faith in something that is fake. You can't get out of the bed. You're weeping about it all the time. What can you do? And blaming this and blaming that, when you got the authority at any time to reject any man or reject any individual that comes against your peace, that comes against your prosperity, to reject any law that comes against your peace, that comes against your prosperity, and stand up for justice and righteousness. And as I have said, when the fisherman has fished this long and people have practiced the process, and when there is a revolt against this particular principle, many people might have to die, but that is necessary that you give your life up, that you die in order for truth, in order for love to continue on its path of growth, so that this earth that we do live on can not just be hell, but can be heaven on earth, or paradise, whatever you want to call it. I've taken this time to share this thing with you, ladies and gentlemen, because I heard a gentleman, a senator, say that peace or war, suggesting that if this fish, North Korea, does not bite the bait, which is saying that you must give up all of your nuclear ability, you must give up all of your defense, or we are going to go to war against you. It's like telling you who say you're protected by the Second Amendment that you got the right to own guns for your protection, that the law comes to you, and somebody said that this was even said on the internet the other day, that you better give up your guns or they're going to send a law in and take your guns. Well, if you want to know what to stop the law, you cock that gun, and I guarantee you that law will not come up in there. Well, somebody said, well, we've had wars, and their shooting back didn't stop us. This is what's going to stop you, ladies and gentlemen. Have your eyes open. Have your ears open. Have your hearts open. Have your minds open. Change your mind. Renew your mind from all of this garbage, and it is strictly garbage. Look at these major cities. In every major city, I don't care how prominent it is, there is a ghetto. There's a skid row. There are people who are unemployed. There are people who make little money. There are people who are suffering at the hands of a system that says this is the way it must be. I want you to know, ladies and gentlemen, the creator of this earth, the creator of all the stuff that's in it, including you, that designed you, says that that's not the way it's supposed to be. And I'm here telling you that. And yet, in order for you to believe it, you're waiting for a miracle to happen. An absolute miracle. When Moses came down and talked to Pharaoh about what God has given him to do, he used a snake, took a piece of wood, and made it, by the blessings of power of God, to turn it into a snake. Only to find that Pharaoh's magicians had that same ability. Nevertheless, God's man's snake consumed the snake of man's snake. And so, ladies and gentlemen, the challenge is going to always be there. The challenge will be peace or war. It doesn't matter. Man will always find a reason for war, or a reason to beat you down and to make you subservient. But God frees you. And this is why I stand here today, out here, looking for a ring that my wife accidentally lost, to give you some information that you won't get from others. You won't get it from preachers. The preachers don't tell you what I've just shared with you. In other words, does that mean that I'm the only person out here speaking truth to power? I hope not. But the evidence is that that's all I hear of. I don't hear of anybody else doing it. And so I need you to wake up. But not just to wake up, but to change the society, to change this world, so that we, you and I, and our children and our grandchildren can feel the fruits of life, the benefits of life. This rests in the power of God that is expressed through our acceptance of God's power. So thank you once again for giving me this your time. What am I going to call this? By the time I record it, and post it, I'll have a title for it. Right now, I'm going to take a pass on that. Thank you once again, Eddie Marcus. Bye-bye.